Rest at the pulse of the community, providing all things news, music, fashion, events, and everything that we talk about in between. It's a lifestyle. We are the culture. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our show today. We are the culture, and I'm your host, Jessica Garrett Modkins. And joining me today, I have Attorney Yolanda Cash Jackson, who's the Government Relations Shareholder for Becker Poliakoff. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We were so excited when we got the press release about the fund, and we said we have got to get Attorney Cash Jackson on the show to let the culture know about the wonderful things that you are doing to continue to push the agenda for African Americans and people of color, especially as it relates to here in Florida. But before we start on that, I wanted to know what got you into law? What made you become a lawyer?
I wasn't very good at math. Uh, I think I've always had an interest in law, but I didn't know until much later after graduating undergrad and having a very good time in undergrad. I graduated law school almost 10 years to the day from undergrad.
Mm.
And I think at that point I was motivated because I had been passed over for a promotion at the current job that I was in and realized that there needed to be something else for me and took the leap.
Awesome. Awesome. And now you are a shareholder at Becker. What is that like? What are your responsibilities as being a shareholder for government relations?
So we have our law firm is about, we range between 140-ish lawyers around the state in New Jersey and New York. And as a shareholder, I am one of the owners, the equity shareholder. I'm one of the owners of the firm. We have now, I think, about 20 of us that own equal shares in the firm. And I'm also on the management committee of the firm, so I'm responsible for managing the day-to-day now chaos and drama that goes along with keeping the some 300 employees, 300 plus employees we have at the firm, keeping them employed, keeping the checks coming in, making sure that we're in compliance with all the HR responsibilities and the like, all the things that go along with running a business.
Ah, okay. And then there has been a lot of discussion here in the wake of George Floyd's death, in the wake, starting all the way back with Trayvon Martin.
Mhm.
That there has been inequities in business, and that as a result to that, there could possibly be some bright horizon once we have people of color, black people, black men, black women sitting at the table making decisions, holding companies accountable, being a shareholder like yourself. Now, I do know that you are the only um, black person. Does that have some sort of responsibility for you personally, and what does that look like for you?
I think for me personally, it's because I do personalize it. I think too much is given, much is required. I take that very seriously. I think I take my stewardship and my responsibility for giving back time, talent, and resources. I take that very, very seriously. So, yes, I do feel some personal responsibility to make life a little bit better. I always tell people it's great to be the first, but it's a shame if you're the last. So I spend a lot of time trying to mentor others in hopes that one day I won't be the only one. The firm's 40 some odd years old, and so we hope that we have folks in the pipeline. I have a bright, young, energetic, smart associate that female that works with me, and I'm hoping that she will, get in that path. But we're very new as a people at these kind of opportunities. And just the first generation of lawyers that have been able to work at majority firms. So it may take a little while. We know that racism is systematic. It's not something that you can just turn it on and off like a light switch. It's throughout, and it's ingrained throughout the system.
And you mentioned first generation at a majority firm. You've set in motion some things to change the diaspora of that industry with the HBCU Pathway to Law Fund. Tell us about it.
Right. So the thought was, after you practice law for a while, and I've been very involved in the Association for Black Alumni over the years. One thing about being more mature, I won't call it old, but more mature, people ask you to give. They ask you to give back, and philanthropy is a very important part of aging, for those of you who will get there one day. And so when I was approached about giving to the university, giving more to the university, because I always have given to the university, I said, you know what? There really need to be about some Black people.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's my choice. Uh, that was important to me even before George Floyd. And so working with the College of Law and the folks in institutional advancement, I guess you would call it there, we were able to come up with a solution to support HBCUs. I've represented HBCUs for the better part of my lobbying career in some form or fashion. Florida Memorial, Edward Waters, Bethune-Cookman University, and they have become very, very important to me in a lot of ways. And I understand the plight of students who are in those instances, like Edward Waters. 90% of the students are Pell eligible. That means that they come from households of $50,000 or less, a family of four. So I understand that, and I fought for them for funding in Tallahassee. We had a wonderful year, getting about $20 million of additional funding for those three privates. So the next step is to make sure that we have a pipeline of Black lawyers who can come back and try the cases that have to do with social justice. We have to have lawyers to assist us in this movement. We know Thurgood Marshall was very young when he was a young lawyer working with the civil rights movement. Fred Gray, our own H.T. Smith, Larry Hanfield, all of those folks are lawyers that help change the dynamic of what has gone on both nationally and locally. I'm a proud member of the National Bar Association, and we have some dynamic members here, but we have to make sure that we are not the last.
Right.
And so that was my goal. And having worked with HBCUs, those students come out with student loans, sometimes in the six figures. How are you going to go to law school or fulfill that dream? And then finally, my father was one of nine, the child of immigrants from the Bahamas. So sometimes I have a little twang. So, but and so he didn't have the opportunity to go to University of Florida. One, he was not allowed to. Um, he went into the Army, came back, and when he got ready to go into a graduate program, the state of Florida paid he and my mom to go to Indiana University because they didn't allow Black students to go to UF. And so I guess part of me is a poke in the eye, maybe. But we have great people that went to HBCUs like George Allen, and then went on to University of Florida. And I mean, this is just a start. I hope that it will catch on, and they'll do it at Florida State. Gators are always first. I'm just saying, petty, petty. But I'm hoping that other folks will do it. And I had some great, 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 great support. Um, this scholarship kind of has been lost because we got a really big donor, but the meaning of the scholarship kind of got lost. But understand that this was started by University of Florida Black Alumni. Greg Francis, who's a prominent lawyer in Orlando, Osborne and Francis, Paul Perkins, who comes from a family of very distinguished lawyers. I think his dad was the first lawyer in Orange County, and so they put up the money, their own money, to support this, that got us to where we were endowed. And it was the first time that Black law graduates had formed an endowed scholarship. That means perpetual. And then Mr. Culverhouse um, was attracted by that fact, and he then put in his $1 million. But it was started by Black alumni for Black students
At HBCUs.
at HBCUs. That is correct.
And then what is
And
the
although we have diversity at HBCUs now, so
yeah,
but
yeah,
HBCU,
yeah.
yes.
And tell us the name.
It's called HBCU Pathways, done in honor of John Lewis. And John Lewis passed at that time. It's our hope that, or our plans are that we will get to $2 million by the end of the year. And that will come from donors, hopefully nationally. And that was the whole idea. I think that the university thought that the tribute to John Lewis would make it more of national prominence. There's our also hope that those initial people, Greg and Paul, would also have a chair, in meaning that there would be their own scholar, and then those scholars would be attached to them almost like in a mentoring role, so that those students don't have like what many of us did. I think my first time ever going to the law firm was when I went to get hired for a job, to interview for a job. I had no idea what a law firm was. I had never been in one, never seen one, had never been in an office building that high on the 18th floor. So we hope that these students won't have that experience. They'll have a much better, fulfilling experience.
So if there is someone who has just all of this money or even just some money and they would like to make a donation, what would they need to do?
So you can go to the University of Florida College of Law website and donate. And or if you'd like to contact me, but you can go and donate. If you do have a large donation, we take them. But let me tell you something. I grew up in the Church of God in Christ. We do it $100 at a time. So we'll take no contribution that's too small, because it's just so important as we go through this very, very important time in history to have trained lawyers that come from backgrounds that understand. And I tell people, I had the great opportunity to go to the University of Florida twice, but the reality is that I was raised in Liberty City,
Mm-hmm.
and all of those people that nurtured me, and Girl Scouts, and playing tetherball, which I don't know if you know what that is, tetherball,
Yes. Yes.
yes, going at the park and going on field trips. My fourth grade teacher taking me to the bank and opening up a bank account. All those people poured into um, kids that grew up in Liberty City, and good things do come out of Liberty City. And so I hope that this will be something that allows all of those students to um, become lawyers and then give back,
Mm-hmm.
start the cycle all over again.
Awesome. 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 And then if there are students at HBCUs who are aspiring to go to UF and study law and get their JD, what would they need to do to be apply to be a scholar?
So we're working out the actual requirements for the scholarship. Right now, we have enough funding for 5 scholarships, and you got to understand that when I graduated law school in '90, we had 18 law students that were Black. And just think, 5 of those will have a total free ride.
Mm-hmm.
And if we get 20, every year we'll have at least 20 HBCU students a part of the University of Florida College of Law. So we don't know exactly what the requirements are going to be. Since I work with the HBCU presidents a lot, we will have a conversation about what they think is needed. You have some of those institutions like Edward Waters. Dr. Faison's done a wonderful job there. They have a law college, and trying to figure out what that means to give those students an opportunity. And we see what happens. We have a new state representative, Christopher Benjamin. He went to Florida Memorial University
Wow.
and went on to law school. So we can see, and statistics have shown us that students that come from historically Black colleges perform better in law schools than those of us that have gone to PWIs.
Mm.
So we'll see what the requirements will be, but I'm sure it will be excellent, whatever it is.
Absolutely. Any closing thoughts that you would like to leave our viewers with?
No, I would just say that one of the things that I have learned is from my spiritual self, that I've learned from my parents, my grandparents, and my pastor, um, that you have to seed into um, good ground, and you have to sow, you have to give, and if you give, the rest is good, and you can't grow weary. Galatians 6:9 is one of my favorite Bible verses. You can't go get weary in doing good,
Mm-hmm.
and things you'll reap a harvest if you don't faint.
Mm.
And that's what we have to do in this very, very difficult, disturbing time. It's tough on all of us,
Mm-hmm.
but we can't give up. We can't give in, but we have to give to those things that we know will make a difference in our communities. That's my closing thoughts.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Attorney Cash Jackson. We appreciate you
Yeah.
coming to the culture. And thank you all for joining us. And we'll see you next time for another edition of The Culture. Have a great day.
The Culture is produced and owned by Hip Rock Star Media and cannot be reproduced or broadcast without written consent by Jessica Garrett Modkins. All rights reserved 2020.